So it's 6:32. Welcome everyone who's here to join us for our monthly housing meeting. My name is Rashida Hilliard. I'm the chair of the Housing Committee. I'm here with Sebastian Chidelapoli. Thank you. Um, I just want to begin by saying that as a community board, we loosely follow Robert's rules of order. With that being said, we will follow the agenda that was previously sent out. Um, if you don't have the agenda, we're basically having Manur Fatima speak. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. From Bricks and Mortals, we also have a resolution that we'll be looking at, and just a Q&A and chair report and everything else. But basically, that's our meeting. So even if I'm saying this now, although there aren't like hundreds of people, but if there are many people, even if there are fewer people, what we like to do is we like to give everyone an opportunity to speak. So by following the Robert's Rules of Order, we try to give you an opportunity to speak once first, if everyone wants to speak, and then afterwards, if there's time, we allow you to speak more than once. We try to, give everyone an opportunity. If you're on Zoom, you want to raise your hand. I know there are the little, I guess, let me see, the little signals at the bottom. But if you're on your phone, to raise your hand, I want to say it is star. If you want to actually unmute yourself, it's star 6. So mute and unmute star 6 on your phone, and I believe maybe star 9 to raise your hand. Uh, or you can just call out if we don't see you. So with that being said, welcome again. I will actually take roll call right now, and if other people come in, I'll update the roll call. But starting with the roll call, we have Rashida here, Sebastian Chidelapoli. Lee Chung is not here. She will be online, but she's not able to make it. Ingrid De Leon is not here yet, and Jessica Sosa is also not here yet. But we're still going to begin. So I am going to skip over the approval of the minutes from April 28th because I would only do that if we have a quorum, and we don't currently have a quorum, so I'll save that for later, which means that our next item would be having Manur Fatima from Bricks and Mortals speak. So just a little bit of information is that Bricks and Mortals is a grassroots membership organization that consists of individuals and organizations from faith-based institutions and real estate experts. And we asked that Fatima, that Manur, wait, how should I address you?
Manur is fine.
Okay, Manur, we asked that Manur address the following questions. What is the mission of Bricks and Mortals? What programs does Bricks and Mortals offer? How can Bricks and Mortals collaborate with Community Board 8? And with the passing of City of Yes resources, how can Bricks and Mortals help this community and members in the community navigate the upcoming zoning laws or zoning changes? So basically, those were the questions that were posed, and that's what we're expecting to have answered to the best of our ability. And after that, we can have a Q&A session if necessary. So I'm now turning it over to you, and thank you again for joining us.
No problem. I can share my screen, right?
Let
me
me
send a
just,
request.
yes.
Okay. Let me just share my screen. I have a nice fancy presentation lined up for you guys.
Will we have access to this afterwards as well, of slide deck?
Yeah, so I'll send over the slide deck and then I'll send over a few flyers that kind of sum up what I've said.
No
And
problem.
I hope
Thank
that'll be helpful to you guys. So hello everyone, my name is Manur and I'm the program manager at Bricks and Mortals, and thank you for having us here today. So I'm going to talk through some of our programming and how we can help the community board, help the community members, especially the houses of faith. So Bricks and Mortals is a grassroots membership organization that was officially launched in 2019. The organization began a few years before we officially launched, and many of our current members started meeting at the Manhattan Borough President's office to talk about issues related to faith-based property and how to share resources in a climate where that was dominated by sort of luxury developers. And our mission is for houses of faith to have the knowledge, connections, access to resources, advocacy that they need to manage their properties in service of their mission, their communities, understand and address the new realities that affect faith communities and their real estate, build resilience, and take charge of their destinies and their legacies on their terms. So Bricks and Mortals is uniquely positioned as the only faith-based and multi-faith membership organization in New York City. We're also the only membership organization in New York with members from both the faith and the real estate communities. Our whole goal is that we're impartial and we're outcome neutral. That means we don't recommend one particular firm or one particular project. We just provide a list of resources we would feel the best help a house of faith. And we offer the same resources to different houses of faith, provided that they have the same situation. So the way we work is that when a house of faith reaches out, we figure out what do they need, what's on fire, where's the hole in the roof, and then we talk to them about long-term planning and options for their property. And so we give them the options, we give them the experts, and it's the congregation decides how to move forward. And we just provide resources and expertise to help them make that happen. So we work on an accountability loop that is faith-led and that prioritizes faith-based organizations. All of our members sign an ethics pledge, which makes sure that nobody partakes in any kind of unscrupulous practices that would harm faith-based groups. And then the members, they elect the board, and the board in turn approves new members. So this is a way in which everybody is sort of accountable to everyone. Here are some examples of our recent inquiries at Bricks and Mortals. They cover different circumstances relating to property. They happen over all 5 boroughs, and we have many houses of faith that reach out to us with assistance for their property. So I want to talk about why we exist. And it's because congregations play a vital role in supporting their communities. They offer food banks, they host AA meetings, and so much more. Congregations in New York City are in an especially expensive real estate market, and there are trends showing less membership and then less income, but just as much need from their communities. And I want to sort of reiterate those points with a couple of numbers. So studies show that the average urban sacred site generates $1.7 million in economic impact annually. Judson Memorial Church, where Bricks and Mortals originally started, has an impact of $10 million annually. And 87% of those beneficiaries are not members of the congregation. Faith-based organizations also provide 58% of emergency shelter beds in 11 cities surveyed across the nation. And they deliver 40% of vital human services. That means food distribution, school drives, mental health services, and we're looking at an enormous impact from faith-based organizations. Meanwhile, faith-based organization membership is down, which in turn reduces their annual giving, their individual giving. And the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated a downward trend that has been happening to houses of faith for quite a long time. Looking at New York City alone, there are about 6,000 faith-owned properties in New York City, and they occupy a landmass that is 2.5 times the size of Central Park. Many of these buildings are in landmarked or historic districts, resulting in some very expensive property to manage. There continues to be an opportunity and a need for them to play an important role in their communities. And if you just think about it, the impact of 6,000 organizations serving the community across New York City, that's quite a huge number to even think about. But this means that faith-based organizations are closing at a faster rate than they're opening. And those that continue to operate do so with a $70,000 to a $100,000 budget for a 10,000 square foot property, which is like a lot of money for not a lot of space. We're looking at about 75 to 150 congregations closing per week between 2010 and 2020 in the US. 100,000 churches, that is 25% of all churches in the US, are expected to be sold or repurposed by 2030. And that means all of that service, all of those communities that they've been helping will lose that kind of impact that they've had for a long time. And so in turn, in this changing climate, these are some of the examples of how faith-based organizations are rethinking their space. Some are space sharing, and some are doing partial or full redevelopment. They want to create affordable housing. They want to create mixed-use housing in partnership with a nonprofit. These are all options that we have sort of resources for and that we can help. So Bricks and Mortals helps houses of faith figure out what their next year, next 5 years, or 50 years look like. We develop programs and resources directly in response to faith community needs. And with our advocacy, we're working to expand those options for faith-based organizations. In terms of policy, we've been one of the leading advocates on issues related to faith-owned property. We've been chairing the mayor's working group for faith-based affordable housing and community development since 2022, and we just put out a policy platform for this year's mayoral election that deals exclusively in faith-based property issues. As we mentioned, we're the only community of faith-based and real estate members. We've organized 2 citywide summits on faith-based affordable housing, and we offer bi-monthly membership meetings that always feature a case study of how faith-based properties are using their spaces and an extra resource like how they get tax exemptions or how houses of faith or nonprofits can work around city council discretionary funding. Alongside the creation of all these connections, we're gathering and developing resources for faith-based organizations, the real estate community, and the local community groups that surround them. So far, we have 19 original case studies, including the membership meetings, and we have more than 50 public membership events. They're free and they're online. And we also offer what I like to call our real estate cork board, where faith-based organizations can search for new properties or they can sell existing properties to a small group of ethical partners or our ethical members. So what's next for us? We're working with the Brooklyn Borough President to develop an accelerator for faith-based affordable housing. We have our first annual Faith-Owned Property Conference happening in October of this year, and you are more than welcome to come. I can always send over an invite. And we're working very closely with houses of faith and nonprofits that are responding to the city's newest New Yorkers. Apart from our regularly scheduled programs of membership meetings, public talks, and networking events, we've been working on these new tools for our members. We have a member directory that lists all of our members according to their services, their locations, and their experience with faith-based organization. Our health assessment is an annual survey that can help faith-based organizations gauge their strength in 4 specific categories, namely finance, property, the congregation, and the wider community. And we also have resources that can help them with their individual problems. So what can you do to help us? If you're a member of a faith-based organization or you have a real estate firm, join us as a member. If you aren't, you can always refer us, and the community board, especially if they have a house of faith that has any kind of problem, anything from our electricity is going to shut off in like 5 minutes and unless we do something about it, to hey, there's this space that's been kind of dead and we want to think about building affordable housing or parking for our community, we can help you get the resources and get the experts you need to do that. And this was the last slide, but I do want to talk about City of Yes. So a lot of our members have been closely watching City of Yes and also the Faith-Based Affordable Housing Act that was happening on a New York level, sort of introducing some principles of City of Yes on a state-based, on a state level. So we have member resources that we can always share. We have especially we especially have zoning lawyers and brokers that are particularly adept at reading what is going on with the faith-based with City of Yes. So if there's anybody in your community that's interested in developing property, selling their air rights, we can sort of introduce them to someone who can start that process for them in a way that would protect them. And we have a couple of public events that will hopefully, knock on wood, come out in the fall that will talk about sort of rezoning or figuring out the landscape post City of Yes. And also as the time goes, we will also learn what is working with City of Yes, what is not working, where is the loophole, what do we need to pay attention to, because it is sort of still in an introductory phase and there's a lot of like guinea pig testing going on around City of Yes. But we have all of those resources and we have the mayor's working group on faith-based affordable housing. So it's not just affordable housing, it's also landmarking and air rights, where any house of faith or any member of the real estate community can come and we can talk through some of our suggestions, half of which have been very seriously considered in the final City of Yes platform. And we're just working on how to push for and advocate for faith-based property as a separate and unique property that is not just historic, but also something that serves the community. And, you guys are members of your community are more than welcome to join those meetings once they start up again in the fall. In the meantime, please feel free to check out our website, send us a message about any faith-based organization, nonprofit, or real estate organization in your neighborhood that could benefit, and you can also follow us on social media. So that's my presentation. Thank you for your time and for your attention.
Thank you for your time. So as I mentioned before, I wanted to give you an opportunity to, share the information that, that you have just shared. And at this point, I can open it up to Q&A if anyone has questions. So if anyone either on Zoom or here has any questions, yeah.
Sure. Could you guys run through some of the questions or some of the cases that you're working on right now, explicitly with residents or community-based property owners in CB8?
CB8 has not thus far reached out to us, but I know CB6 nearby has reached out saying that there is an empty lot that they have next to a presbytery, and they were interested in they can't really trace they haven't seen anybody in that house of faith, but that church is just basically taking up space, and the whole community board has a plan to create sort of affordable supportive housing in that lot, and they had no idea where to start. And so then, I came to their community board meeting and I had a consultation with them. And basically my advice to them was to start talking to the denomination, because the denominations are the ones that inevitably own the piece of land that is causing this sort of tension. And then also making sure that there is nobody who would oppose it or be against it once you have the denomination support that this house of faith is not being used by the community, the space is not being used by the community, sort of make a case or convince them to dissolve the congregation and then start in the beginning. We can only help and advise, but in the end, the decision and the conversation ultimately has to come from you. And so if you have any such properties that you're interested in discussing, then I'd be, very happy to sort of talk you through a basic procedure. Oh, they also had like a raccoon infestation, and then they asked us to help with that. I suppose, yes, we can do that. We know a couple of exterminators who can help get rid of some raccoons.
And now, I know people say that there's no such thing as a stupid question, but I might have one. So please forgive me in advance.
No such thing.
So just to be clear, in my head, I know you were saying that, that you team up with real estate, experts, you know, to solve certain issues. Just for my own, like, clarity, if someone says, let's say there's a property, on like a church site or a temple or whatever different site, and people are like, hey, I would like to, maybe turn that into a place where people live.
Hmm.
Can we make it Catholic, a building for Catholics or Jewish people or Muslim, or can it work like that? Or is that, I mean, I don't, am I making sense? Like, can you,
Yeah.
I know it sounds,
Not for me.
I mean, does
Yes.
my question make sense? Yeah, okay.
Um, Short answer, yes, you're making sense. There are some houses, some development projects that have that are in place that will specifically serve a community that already exists there. So affordable housing generally works on a lottery ticket, but I think in the construction phase, especially if you partner with like a nonprofit or you tell your sort of your broker or your dealers from the get-go that we want to make this specifically for our Presbyterian community, our Jewish community, then that will definitely be considered in one of, in the requirements for that lottery. And this happens a lot where houses of faith have an existing community that they support, and they just want to give more resources and more space to the communities that they already serve.
Okay, thank you. So it wasn't as silly as I thought. Um, anyone else have any questions? We're opening it up.
Sure, I'll ask, where do you guys, get your funding for legal services, for property, management services? Just interested to know, does it come from the organization, the faith-based organizations? Does it come from, some grant programs or private funding? I don't know.
We're a registered 501(c)(3). We don't have funding or legal services of our own. Our members are, especially like our for-profit members are like lawyers or they are real estate people. And then we just sort of introduce houses of faith to those technical experts, and then whatever deal they end up doing is not something that we take part in. We don't make a profit, we don't take a cut. Our finances come from, so we have a membership organization and people do pay membership fees, but that is often on a sliding scale. So some of our membership comes from there, some of our funding comes from there, and then other funds come from private foundations, state funding, city funding, just like any other nonprofit. Very happy to say we are not funded by the federal government, so it's all good. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. What's the best ask, right? So you have the floor. These meetings are recorded. They do get published online. Is there something specific that we can do directly to support your cause as a housing committee?
Um, yeah, if anybody is interested in doing some kind of space sharing, some kind of development, if you have if you know nonprofits that are interested in pairing up with developers, we can sort of look into which of our members are developing in the area. I know one of our members, they are developing housing near Fordham in the Bronx, and they're looking for nonprofits to partner with to provide sort of childcare support or immigrant support in that space. So if you know any houses of faith that need help, or any area of land you feel like the community feels like something needs to change, any kind of help of that nature, you can just send them our way. And oftentimes, like houses of faith will come to community boards in a state of crisis, and so you can just sort of send them to us instead of especially if you don't have the bandwidth or the time, or if it's like a really urgent thing, we do have the resources and capabilities to handle that. So it's a resource for you. There's, we can only help you as much as you need in the moment.
That's great. Mhm.
And for sure, I know you mentioned previously that you had a list of events that will be coming up, so, we look forward to receiving that information so that we can at least distribute that or have it distributed to the community board members.
Oh,
if they
for
are
sure.
interested.
For sure. And they will largely be on Zoom, so you can just, I say you sit at home and you watch the Zoom video like a podcast while you make your dinner or something.
That sounds like a good plan. Yeah, we have another question.
Can we get your contact information?
Sure. I can, when I send over the slide deck, I'll send over my phone number and my email, and anybody is more than happy to contact me from here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any other people on Zoom, any last questions?
Not for me.
Okay. No problem. Anyone in the, so we want to thank you again for, coming and sharing the information with us. As mentioned several times, this is recorded, so once our minutes get, put together, it will be distributed to the wider community so that people have more information about what you have to offer. And once you send the slide deck as well with your information, we can also include that with the upcoming events for, September or the fall. Whenever they are.
Sure,
So
sure.
we
I'll
thank-
definitely let you guys know.
No problem. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks, guys. You have a good evening. Stay
too.
cool. It's very hot outside.
You too.
Yes.
Yep.
You too. So we're actually going to go back to an item, which is, item 3 on the agenda, approval of the minutes. We do have a quorum, and so, I would like-
Motion to approve.
we have a motion, okay, so we had a motion to approve the minutes and a second, so yes, we, are now approving the minutes from April 28th, 2025. We did not have a meeting in May because it was Memorial Day. So, moving forward on our, the next item on our agenda, I'm going to say this is the first time in my history as a housing chair that I'll be doing this. So we have a resolution in support of the Tenants Opportunity to Purchase Act, also known as TOPA. So, thank you, you're welcome. Then you have it. If you don't have the information, I'm going to read it. I don't have anything on the screen, but if the, I don't know, I'll read it out loud, actually, and it'll be distributed when the minutes go up.
Is that a hand?
No, oh no, this hand is, yeah, we just make sure it's a little hand, it's just a Zoom. So the Housing Committee is calling on Bronx Community Board 8 to support the Tenants Opportunity to Purchase Act resolution. So whereas 8 out of the Bronx's 12 community districts have been beleaguered by high eviction notices, rent burdened households in which a household spends more than 30% of their income on housing costs, such as rent and utilities, and other tenant-related housing concerns, which include but are not limited to dilapidated conditions and negligent landlords as of 2023. And whereas the median household income for Community Board 8 is $81,095, though approximately 35% of the population has a median household income of under $50K or $50,000, while 27% make between $50,000 and $100,000 as of 2023, with some neighborhoods in CB8 experiencing higher rates of poverty than others. And whereas over 50% of renters in Community Board 8 are considered rent burdened as of December 2024. And whereas local housing, which includes having access to affordable and accessible housing, whether they be rental properties or cooperative houses for purchase for low and middle income individuals and families, is a concern for our community, which is Community Board 8. And whereas the Tenants Opportunity to Purchase Act is a proposed law that allows tenants the opportunity to make an offer to purchase their building if the landlord decides to sell it, also known as first right of refusal. And whereas TOPA seeks to prevent the displacement of lower income tenants in New York and preserves affordable housing by providing an opportunity for tenants to form an association to work toward home ownership or remain renters in their properties in which they reside. And therefore, be it resolved, the Housing Committee calls on New York State Legislature and Governor Hochul to pass and enact the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, sponsored by Assembly Member Meethanes and Senator Myrie. And that is where we are. So, in a,
Is there a motion?
yes, there is a motion.
Discussion, because I know that we did get an overview of this, and it's been in DC for many years.
Right,
I don't know if we did due diligence on how pros and cons on the whole thing, because it is in the legislature. I don't know if it is in the committees right now, but I do not know. I'm particularly concerned about how this is gonna work out. For example, we also had some of the local laws meetings where the co-ops are struggling to meet the demands of financing for some of these projects that are coming with local laws and things like that. So establishing something like that, what if they're not able to finance to run the building itself, right? So, and these are some of the unknowns that we are not aware of how this is gonna work out, whether the state is gonna set up a separate fund where these tenant organizations can get into and to finance the purchase first. Because they have to come up with the money to buy it, and then they obviously need support to run. So in concept, it looks good, but for me, I don't know if we have enough information to really understand what this is, how this is gonna work out in New York State. And we do not know how this works out in DC, how the funds are available in DC. It was, and I know we got this information from a presentation from the last meeting.
right.
But I don't think we have enough information. Maybe they can come back and present to us how this works out in DC and how this,
So perhaps having someone, so the person who spoke about this last was a community organization well, NWBCCC, so Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, came to speak to us about TOPA. And so, the concern is here is, while on the surface, it does seem like a reasonable act to push forward in terms of providing tenants with the first right to purchase if their landlords decide to sell a building. So they can get together, organize and find ways to secure funding if their building is in a certain condition. And so let's say the tenants are like, okay, well, we can come up with the money, or we can get the support to help us to run this building. That's basically where, like, the information we have on TOPA, but the concern is, where is this money going to come from, especially with these new laws that are coming down the pike, like Local Law 97, Local Law 11, just these different laws that, aside from even wanting to purchase a building, like you still have to worry about how to keep up the facade, or are we in compliance with the electricity going from gas to electric and things like that. So that's the major concern. As far as we know, we were just, given the information about TOPA. And so it does sound like a reasonable act in terms of keeping, like, preventing people from being displaced if they are in a particular building. But I guess the concern is, once they secure the spot, can they keep it, I guess?
So it means low income to middle income households living in this building. So how are they gonna come up with the money? Because the state needs to fund this in some way.
Right.
And we need to find out, the act without financing, basically, yeah, you get the first offer to purchase and refuse, but you don't have the money because you're middle income to low income tenants living in this, where do you come up with an amount, right? Even if it is fair market appraised value for the property, it's a lot of money.
Right.
And there should be sources to finance the purchase and then finance the maintenance. Because these are not wealthy folks who are going to purchase a building. So for me, from when I looked into it, I couldn't find enough information how this is going to be viable.
Right.
But I know that in concept, it does sound a great opportunity for people who are living so that they don't get displaced and they don't have to move out of the building. But I honestly, I do not think there is enough information just as to support it, like right now, because we need to know really how, if it is done, it should be done right.
I think a good, given your concern, I think a good, possible guest speaker, even though it might not be in my community board, is Davidson, someone from the Davidson, what is it, Davidson House?
Or you.
Well, I don't mind, this has been on the floor now for a few months.
Right.
I don't mind support, like saying that we support this bill, because what it does is it might be, a landlord won't like it because the landlord owns the property and they might say, I wanna sell this building, you know, with all the tenants intact and throw it in the market. And then now that person, whether or not they're a community member or not, is gonna change the rules on everybody, you know, can change the rent on everybody. And what this bill does is say, whoa, 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 slow down, right? The people that have been living in this building are part of this community. They're not just a private equity firm from outside, you know, that has tons of money and then just wants to buy out New York and buy out the Bronx. It allows them the opportunity to have that conversation, to talk about, hey, you know, how can we mobilize as a building to buy back the block, right? Or buy back the building. And without this bill, it's a lost cause, you know? It's like, hey, we're tearing it down, you know, and then it's just, you know, like miserable for everyone who's there, because there are tactics that landlords do to, you know, discourage tenants from staying in their properties, right? So I think that, especially with City of Yes out there in the streets and passing, where there's gonna be a huge construction boom that's already kind of in the works, but if we don't identify all the loopholes before construction starts, with a lot of City of Yes zoning, a lot, you know, loopholes out there, we put our community members at risk. You know, they have nothing to defend themselves from the freedoms that City of Yes gives to developers and private equity firms to just build. And I think we have to make a decision to support. I think it's important to make a decision to support this bill, in order to give people a fair shot to have a conversation on how they can take control of not just a property in their portfolio, but like their home, like where they're raising their kids, where they're, you know, like going home every day after work or commuting to work, right? And you know, I think this is their only shot right now that exists to have a hold your horses moment, to you know, to talk about, like, you know, this not being okay, right? Like nowadays, you know, it's just, they're already rent burdened, so it's just like, you know, this is their opportunity. There has to be a way, like, hey, let's all organize together, and maybe I can't buy it by myself, but we can buy it together. And, you know, like, instead of letting the landlord take it to the streets, just sell it back to the people.
Yeah.
And you know, Northwest Bronx already showed us an example where they did that, right? In Davidson, right? Where the landlord didn't want anything to do with the building, but there's still a whole bunch of people that live there. And they're like, well, if you don't care about the building, like, I love this building, you know? Like, I raised my children in this building. Like, I have memories in this building. Let me have an opportunity to buy it before you sell it to, you know, a private equity firm that's gonna, you know, tear it down or kick me out or raise my rent or, you know, just change the rules and then pull the rug from under me. So that's my That's my.
Yeah, but this only gives an offer, I mean, first right to refusal or first right to buy, right?
It's just, that's it, it's just a hold your horses moment.
Yeah, but I think the bill should give provisions to tap into the finance, you know.
I agree, we
Yeah.
can deal with that later,
Yeah.
right? Once the bill is law, then we can deal with how we fund it, right? But what we have, the bill's just a bill right now, it's not law. Landlords don't have to do anything right now.
Yeah, right.
This is saying, this is the hold your horses landlord. Before you go and sell the block, give the block a shot. That's all it says, and you're right. It does not give, it does not pre-qualify, you know, middle income communities to buy their building, but it gives them a shot. You know, if it's law, it becomes a shot. If it's right now, it's just a bill, and we're racing against time.
And I like that, I like how you put that, I think that's a valid concern, and I like how you put that, cause I just wanted to see too, like, it gives people a shot to organize, and then, the thing is, there is public money and there's also financing out there. So maybe collectively, like, you know, there are these different programs in general, like, okay, if you are the first time home buyer,
Mhm.
then you have a shot, at getting $100,000 or what have you. So, I'm not putting this out there to say, oh, this is how it
Mhm.
works, but we know that these programs exist. So with TOPA, if it gives the tenants an opportunity to organize, then maybe they can actually say, well, if we band together, then we can access that 100,000 here, another 100,000 there, you know, and, in
Mhm.
addition to whatever other funding that is available. But yes, it gives them a shot to actually do that. And in this case, it probably works better because I'm just using 100,000 because I know that is something that exists. And that's for like the multifamily homes or what have you. So this would probably be a way for them to actually access that collectively,
Mhm.
as opposed to it falling on some one person and they're like, well, I can't even meet the guidelines of X, Y, and Z, and then I'm automatically out of the, running or whatever. So, yeah, I do like that idea, the collective bargaining, if you will, aspect of it. Does anyone on Zoom have any questions about TOPA or anything that was just mentioned? Or
No,
concerns?
I have a general sort of question, not about TOPA specifically, but is there a way I can access as a citizen, not a non-member of the board, minutes to previous community board 8 housing meetings? How would I go about doing that?
So if you go online and you put in, if you Google or just Community Board 8,
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it as I'm saying it to you too, because I do it sometimes. So if you Google Community Board 8, the Bronx, actually, because there's a community board in 8 in Manhattan.
Mhm.
okay.
Um, And then you click on, of course, if you go to meetings calendar,
Meetings calendar.
you should see meetings. At least on here, it shows from 2019 until now.
That's enough, sure.
So if you click on any of those, so let's just say, I'll just pick April because I know. Well, okay. Actually, I'm scrolling down because I know it's here and I'm on my phone, actually, but the minutes are on the community board, website. The thing is, in community calendar, that one that I just clicked is just gonna show you the meetings. But if you look, if
It's
you,
on the website.
When you click on full board meetings, then on the left-hand side, you have to click minutes because otherwise it defaults to agendas. So if you don't
Yeah.
click minutes first and you open April, it's going to show you the April agenda. You want to go to the full board meetings and then on the left-hand side, I don't know how it shows up on the phone, but on the computer,
Yeah.
I can see it very well. On the left-hand side, you either have to choose full meeting agendas or full meeting minutes. And you choose minutes, and then currently the minutes are posted through April.
Thank you. Yeah, on
That-
phone, I can't see anything.
I should be able to manage that. Thank you.
And if you have, if you want to see any other meetings, minutes, they should be there as well. Public safety, TNT, whatever else you want to see. And thank you, Aubrey, thank you.
Yeah. The only comment I would have on TOPA, by the way, is I agree. I think there's a lot of information that isn't clear in the act. And I personally would like to understand it more. I think there's something to be said about, I don't remember your name. Not Rashida, someone mentioned gentleman sitting in the room. Sorry.
Sebastian.
Yes, sorry about that. Mentioned seeing like the pros and cons, and I would agree with that. I think there's definitely something to be said about supporting the communities and allowing individuals to come together and to buy the property. I think that's very noble, and I think you're right, giving the the pause to say, hold on, let's make sure the tenants don't want to buy it first. My only concern there is, and again, this has to be worked out in the act, is are there time limits put around this? Because if you're trying to sell your building and we don't have some type of time limit, is it a year? Is it 6 months? Is it 2 years? My concern is if the building is already starting to have issues and then we put a pause on it, and then it falls through, then are we left with buildings that are even in a worse state because they've sat for a year or 2 years? And so just something I hope the state is considering the level of detail.
I can speak on that. I mean, we're in the world of AI, you guys, like we gotta use it. So, this is how I did my research on the TOPA bill, right? So, there is a limit. There is a time limit in the bill. So it's 120 days, which isn't a long time at all.
No.
And I think that's actually the problem, right? Where it's like when the landlord says, I want to sell the property, the tenants have 120 days to say, no, we want to buy it, right? So, but no one's really doing that because it's not a law yet, right? But if they learn it's a law and you live in a rental building and the landlord's like, I want to mix up my portfolio, I want to sell this building, as a renter, you get a shot to mobilize around it, and hopefully by that time, there's already some buildings that have piloted it, right? There's already a set of administrators that have done it before, right? And then now that becomes a network of lawyers and administrators and public or supporters or whatever, or nonprofits that understand the case study of when a rental building wants to buy the block or buy the building, right? What does that look like? And can they achieve it in 120 days, right? So my issue is that it's almost too short, so it's not that it's too long.
Yeah.
And to speak on, Sebastian, you mentioned, we have to be careful about, this is only for renters, right? So this is very different from the conversations we've had where co-ops and condo owners are managing a building that they already own, right? And it's an all volunteer board of people that don't know how to manage a building, right? And now we're getting shoved with all types of assessments and fees because this is what it takes to manage a building, right? Like, if you have, right, local law 11, if you have a brick facade that's over 6 stories, sucks to suck, you have to pay, every 5 years, you have to pay for a FISP inspection, right? So, on top of all the other things, right? Local law 97 that says that, hey, like you need to, like conserve energy, and now you have to do all these capital projects that you can't afford, right? And then you have New Yorkers that are already working 40, 80-hour weeks, having to now meet with common shareholders about how to manage their building, and it's just like, I thought we already paid our maintenance for that, right? So I think
You would
yes,
think
look,
our maintenance over at our building on Woodlawn was proposed to go up, and we finally, the tenants, we pushed back and we got only a 15% increase for now. But because of the facade and everything with the local law 97, we were facing
That's
in
11, that's
January,
11.
yeah, a 33% increase to account for all the updates that we have to do. And we're like, we've got a lot of seniors that have been in the building for 30 plus years and are on fixed income. And, you know, we talk about affordable housing. The co-op building itself isn't technically an affordable housing, but you've lived there forever. You don't have a mortgage and you're paying, you know, $800-900 a month for your maintenance. And then you have, you know, faced with 33%, not because there was a horrible storm and we had to fix something, but because of the changes in law, which is really disheartening. So anyway, sorry, I'm off on a tangent.
So welcome to the meeting. We're talking about this. It's come up this year, right? So as a housing committee, we're talking about it more, right? Where if like we want native New Yorkers to stay in New York, or people that came to New York, transplanted to New York, and now says this is home and invest in a property, and now they own a co-op and a condo, how do we make that possible for them, right? Because right now, with all of these changes, with all these costs that don't go funded, you know, by the state, or don't go, you know, discounted somehow, right, to make it make sense, we are bankrupting our own people, and it's not okay.
No.
So that is something that we, as a housing committee, we've talked about. Right now, TOPA is for renters, right? It's renters, giving renters the opportunity to become co-op or condo owners, right? Explicitly when a landlord wants to sell the building into the market, right? So that's what we're talking about today. And to summarize a few pros and cons, right? Pros, TOPA empowers tenants to buy the building before outside investors get involved. It prevents displacement, which we talked about. Because, right, and then something that I really like about this bill, it says that it supports affordable housing because it includes language that allows the building to be, it's for affordability, right? In the spirit of affordability, the bill also says that the building is committed, if the building buys, if the tenants of the building buy the building from the landlord, they have to commit to being permanently affordable for 99 years before they can go market rate as a building, where it's like, you know, now the tenant population says, oh, like, we just bought a building, equity's up, let's sell it, right? And now they're kind of in the landlord's seat, right? What this bill does in the spirit of affordability is that it says that it needs to stay affordable for 99 years, which is a significant amount of time, and it protects affordability in New York City. So, right, so let's see what else. Fair purchase program, right? So again, I just wanted to say that part. And the cons is we do gotta talk about it, right? Like, cons, it's a complex process. We've never done it before, or we've done it maybe a handful of times. We have one pilot in the Bronx that we can work with, which is why NWBCC brought it up, where it's just like, hey, we succeeded on taking over a building from a landlord that wasn't really taking care of it, and the tenants want to pour into it themselves. So, like, it's a complex process, financial challenges, yes, and then the impact to small landlords, right? Like, that's something we do need to get. It's a con of the bill, where it's just like, hey, if I own maybe 2 or 3 buildings, right? Like, I'm very different than a corporation that owns, you know, like 20,000 units across New York City.
You know, sorry, that's another, I thought I'd like to, you know, wonder how it'll be impacted is if I do own 2 or 3 buildings. I'm not saying I do, but if someone owns 2 or 3 buildings and they're trying to sell them as a package, what does that mean to the law? You know?
Right now,
Yeah.
it's not a law. It's
Yeah.
a bill.
Yeah. No. I just,
But once it's a law, then we can talk about how it will work, and how, as a community, we want those tax dollars that you pay to make that make more sense, so more New Yorkers can afford to stay and live in New York. That is what this is. And I hope that brings some light, where, right, we're only talking about rental buildings. We're not talking about co-ops and condos. We're already struggling with co-ops and condos because now, welcome to the meeting, you are a part owner of a building and you know nothing about what it takes to manage it. And we're kind of like fighting, ourselves, right? And our elected officials on why are you making this okay? It literally makes my job harder, right? It makes my life more expensive, and making that make more sense. So I just wanted to mention those things because the topic of TOPA, right? We didn't have a meeting, so that was last month, and then we brought it up like 2 meetings ago, right? So I do want to move forward with the motion to support this. Right now it's not actually, it's all it is us saying that as Community Board 8, like we believe that renters that live in New York and some of them become renters forever, right? If they get an opportunity to become homeowners, that we say yes to that. That's all, right now this is what's on the table is just a resolution from us saying that, hey, like we believe that this is something good. And then yes, it deserves more attention. That is all we're doing today.
Were you going to add were you going to add something previously?
No.
And I like that you say that because, oh, just 1 second, let me just, what I like is that, it's just providing the opportunity for people to purchase. It doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to. I mean, you might have people who are in the building who decide, you know what, I'm just gonna move, on their own, not, of course, they could feel like they're being pushed out, but sometimes people decide, you know what, I'm ready to leave anyway. So we're not saying that they have to purchase, but at least they have the opportunity. Sometimes you do have people who are like, you know what, I do want to stay here. How can we stay here? And they don't have an option. And this is just providing that option. So I like how you pose that it's not that we're saying, oh, this is going to become law. And if the landlord says, I'm going to sell a building, you have to buy it because they might not want to.
Right, and there is a time limit, right? They have 120 days to do it. There's gonna be chances where even if this is law, TOPA becomes law, that tenants will miss their shot. And I think us sending this resolution to city council, to our elected officials, lets them know that we're paying attention to this and we want them to pay attention to it too. That is all we're doing here.
Any other motion? Oh,
I actually just wanted to acknowledge, I know Lisa, is it Lisa?
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi, so I know you just joined, so I just wanted to welcome you. We're actually in the middle of voting on, the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act.
Okay,
We're not gonna go through the whole thing again, but.
No, but welcome to the meeting.
Welcome to the meeting. So we have a motion to, a motion by,
Well, we just finished discussion, so now you closing discussion, so,
Discussion and then.
okay.
okay,
Mhm.
so thank you all.
Motion to close the discussion.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we had motion to close the discussion and a second. Now, can I open a motion to vote?
Yeah.
You're the chair,
Okay,
yes.
I just want to make sure I'm going in the right order. This is my first time doing this, and I just want to make sure it's right. So now we have a motion to vote on the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act.
The resolution at the table.
Yes, the resolution, yes.
So you're gonna, what is it? Vote? What is it?
So we are going to bear with us. Thank you all for.
Robert's Rules is not a public school class, so.
So we are going to vote on we are going to proceed to vote on the
Resolution.
The
is
resolution.
Support of the tenants opportunity to purchase act.
Yes, the resolution in support of the Tenants Opportunity to Purchase Act, also known as TOPA.
All right, so then you gotta go, all in favor?
So, Can I go one by one? No.
Sure, because you haven't done a roll call, so.
Exactly. Actually, I want to go back and do roll call, thank you, because now that we have a quorum, oh, we did, but
Okay, I wasn't sure,
Sorry,
right?
we
So I was
did
like,
that.
okay, let's certify quorum.
we did.
Okay, good.
So we do have a quorum, but it's Rashida's here, Sebastian is here, Lee Chung is absent, Ingrid De Leon is absent, Jessica Sosa.
Here.
And so we have a quorum, we needed 3 people to have a quorum, and we have 3 out of 5. So now we would like to vote on the resolution to support the Tenants Opportunity to Purchase Act, also known as TOPA. So starting with Rashida, in favor, Sebastian Chidilapoli,
Favor.
Lee Chung absent, Ingrid De Leon absent, Jessica Sosa.
In favor.
So we have 3 people in favor and we needed 3, and so
The resolution passes.
the resolution passes. And thank you all,
All right.
thank you, thank you.
Well, all that means, I think, is that
Awesome.
we bring it to the full board meeting.
Yes, yes.
All it means in the committee level is that we get to present this to the full board meeting on Thursday, where they'll actually vote for it. And then it'll go to the city council for, as a resolution from CBA. So, that is literally all we've done right here.
Jessica,
as a
I think you're
committee-
having too much fun with this.
Yeah, this is just so
I
funny.
wish I was there with you right now.
You're welcome, like the public is welcome to join. So you're welcome
I
to
was
come
there
in
for the aging committee and everyone was on Zoom. So this evening I decided to go on Zoom and it seems like everyone's in person. So
Oh, okay. Well,
Next
we'll see
time.
in September. This is our
yeah,
last meeting
September.
Exactly.
Or the full board meeting. Yeah, you can come to the full board meeting.
Yeah, except I'm getting my colonoscopy on Wednesday. So I'll probably,
TMI, but okay.
I know TMI, right?
That's really, that's important. I get that. Absolutely. Join on Zoom.
No.
No, but thank you for joining us today. And so we actually still have a little bit more to cover in our meeting. So it's not too much longer, but I want to thank you all for joining us for the bulk of it. And thank you for this TOPA resolution, like pushing it forward. So I'm going to, I have a little chair's report. That's the next item. And so I did take notes here. It's going to be quick. But this is something I came across when I was reading in the housing newspaper, what have you. So my chair's report is that local law 119, there's always a local law. Okay, so local law 119 of 2024, also known as the Fairness in Apartment Rental Expenses or FAIR Act. Basically, so the Fairness in Apartment Rental Expenses took effect on June 11th. And this law prohibits brokers who represent landlords from charging broker fees to tenants. This includes brokers who publish listings with the landlord's permission, and landlords or their agents must disclose other fees that the tenant must pay in their listings and rental agreements. So basically it's getting rid of brokerage fees. Now, of course, this is just the beginning. I know if you want to talk about pros and cons, I guess the pro is that you don't have this fee when you're looking for a home, because you usually have to put in like a first month's rent, last month's, all of that, the different months of rent. But the con can be that maybe landlords might roll in some other expenses to make up for the brokerage fee, or however it works. Like they can roll in other expenses. I don't know. I'm not a broker or a landlord, so I don't know what negotiations happen there, but there's a concern that other fees can come up just to make up for whatever's lost in that particular transaction. But this is new. Like I said, it's June 11th that it was passed. It's called the FAIR Act. And we'll just see how it plays out in terms of people who are renting or using a broker, if they decide to use a broker to look for an apartment. So any questions or concerns about that?
No.
Okay. So, moving forward, any old business? No old business here. Any new business? I mean, we just did some new business, but any new business? Okay, so with that being said,
Motion to adjourn?
yes,
Second,
okay.
all right.
So we are adjourning this meeting at 7:37 unless there are any questions in the audience before we do so. So thank you all for joining, and like I said, this is recorded, so once the minutes are, put together and is sent into the board, this will all be put up online. So
Awesome.
thank you all. No problem.
Thank
and I'm
you,
gonna stop
guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations. This was great. Bye.
Meeting was very
Cool,
good. Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.